Am I the arsehole for asking my boyfriend to stop being friends with his girl best friend? Story time. So I know how this sounds, but stick with me. So me and my boyfriend Steve have been going out for about 2 years now. It has all been going absolutely great up until now. So Steve has a best friend who we'll call Amy. Their relationship makes me very, very uncomfortable. About 4 years ago, Steve and Amy actually hooked up. He said it was just a one-time thing and he very quickly realised that they were better off just friends. So he told me this very, very early on in our relationship. He made me feel very well respected. He was very open and honest. He answered any questions I had about it. You know, he had a life before me. He could do what he wants, but I just really, really appreciated him being so open and honest. So one day at the start of our relationship, Steve looked really upset. So, you know, like the supportive girly I am, I was like, hey honey, what's up? And he mentioned that he had spoke to Amy and told her that he was getting serious with someone. Me. And apparently she just burst into tears. Like, chill the fuck out, Amy. This took Steve back a bit. He was like, you good, bro? And anyway, she turned round to him and told him that she was so upset because she always thought that him and her would end up together. Even though Amy had a boyfriend at the time. So Steve and Amy literally weren't anything. They were just friends. Both of them had partners. They both agreed before anything happened as well that, you know, they weren't looking for anything serious in each other. They were just having fun in between relationships. So he felt a little bit blindsided by this information and he didn't speak to Amy for like 6 months. Randomly on this rando Tuesday, Amy calls Steve. First of all, why is that number not blocked? She calls and is like, Steve, I'm in a bad place. Me and my boyfriend broke up. Yeah, probably because you didn't actually like him, Amy. And she was saying that through this breakup, she had realised that she really missed Steve's friendship. But you do, hon. So Steve comes to me and asks me if I'm comfortable with him meeting up with her. And listen, I'm a cool girlfriend. Do what you want, babe. But I said you need to make it very, very clear to her that you are just going to be friends. I have been with Steve now for 2 years and I met her twice. Anytime I'd invite her out with us, anything in a group, she would always decline. I just didn't really think too much of it, to be fair. However, a little bit suspicious, she would always go to group events when I wasn't there and it was Steve going on his own. So after this initial meet up, Amy would start to call Steve and be like, are you on your own? Is your girlfriend there? Can we meet up? She'd had a bad day at work. She'd be like, I just need some alone time with my bestie Steve. So I finally lost my shit last weekend. So he had posted a picture on his story of him and Amy out for drinks. So just for some context here, I had invited her to 6 different things throughout this year, but she said that she couldn't commit to anything till June 2024 because her schedule just wouldn't allow it. Amy, if Vogue can get 40 of the most booked women in the world to pose for a cover, you can come to one of my drinks. So I decided to raise this with Steve and I was like, it makes me really, really sad that you meet up just you and her. You only ever see each other when I'm not there, and every time I'm away, Amy is suddenly free. And this is when Steve said that I was overreacting. So what do you think I should do here?
I am 32 years old. My parents have been married for 33 years, but it was only about 4.5 years ago when we found out the truth about their love story. Growing up, I remember being told that they met at a park and that my dad bought my mom lunch. My brother heard the same story, except they told him that they met at the mall. Again, the truth came out a few years ago, and it was because we were at a family event, and one of my cousins mentioned something about, it's, right around the time when Uncle Steve kidnapped Tia Delia, and I was like, what? So then when we asked my mom about it, she came clean and she told us everything. Apparently, they worked together in Fletcher, North Carolina, and, they had met at work. They were flirty. Looks were exchanged, all that good stuff. My mom had come over from Mexico, and she was living with her 2 older brothers. Well, they were really strict. They weren't going to let her go out or whatever, and so my dad just decided to take matters into his own hands. He got the supervisor to be in on it and to tell my mom that she needed to go work at the building next door for the rest of the day. And so my dad's plan was to scoop in and be the hero and be like, oh, I'll drive you over there. So he did that. They're driving and then suddenly they drive past the building. My mom starts to freak out a little bit and she's like, where are we going? And my dad says, surprise, I'm taking you to Georgia to meet my family so that we can get married. So at this moment, my mom starts freaking out. She didn't want to do that. And so she said that she even tried to lie to him and say something like, I have heart issues and I have my medicine. I didn't bring my medicine with me. We need to go back. He didn't fall for it. And so they just kept driving. And once they got to Georgia, my grandma was still alive then, so my dad introduced my mom to my grandma and told her the plans that he had with my mom, that he was going to marry her. And yeah, my mom told her, I'm not going to marry your son. He just took me against my will, and yeah, I want to go home. So my dad tells her, fine, whatever, I'll take you back home. But just so you know, your brothers are really strict. They're super Catholic. This is turning into an overnight trip now. They're never going to believe that you and I didn't do anything. So at this point, my mom starts to think about it. She goes to her room. He goes to another room, whatever. She ends up going back and telling him, fine, I will marry you. But the conditions are that you have to fund a trip for me to go to Mexico every year to visit my family, and you have to send money to my parents. So yeah, we thought they had a meet cute at the park, and turns out my dad full on kidnapped her. But yeah, I mean, a year later I was born, and then 4 years later my brother was born. And yeah, we just got back from our annual trip to Mexico actually just a few weeks ago, and they're building a house there now. I got to go and help them pick out the tile and all that stuff. So I guess in the end, my mom got her happily ever after anyway. And, you know, she puts up with a lot, but my dad's a good person. I mean, at least he is now. She didn't really care about the 9 years that he spent in prison prior to all of this for a murder charge, but
today I'm going to tell you my favorite private chef story, and that is when I filled in as the head chef at a dead billionaire's compound in Southampton while multiple of his ex-wives were staying there. The year is 2020. I am a ripe 23 years old living at my parents' house in New Jersey, and I had just completed my first summer working as a live-in private chef out in the Hamptons. I had just started working with a private chef agency that would help connect me with new clients to do like one-off gigs for extra cash, and they called me with an urgent request to cater a lunch for 13 ladies, and I had about 5 days notice. So I was like, okay, what's the budget? And they said, she doesn't have a budget. And I said, okay, cool, I'll make it work. I connect with the client about menus. She's extremely flexible, but her one request was to cook as if twice as many people were going to be there because she didn't want the spread to look sparse. So the gig was 13 people, but I had to cook as if 26 people were going to be eating the food. I'm sure you can imagine catering a lunch for 13 people is a lot different than catering a lunch for 26 people. So I, at this point, realized I'm kind of in over my head, but the paycheck was so fat that I was like, I have to do this. Like, I have to figure it out. Now, in case you're new here, I am a one-woman show to a fault. And so I had to spend the entire week prepping for this lunch. The night before, my dad and I were up until midnight, zesting lemons, juicing lemons, making the cake. It took years off my life. So it's the big day. I pack up my car with all of the food prep and all of these Yeti coolers. I drive my Jeep from New Jersey all the way to Southampton. I pull up and it is the biggest house I've ever seen in my entire life. Multiple buildings on the property, ocean front, like literally a scene out of Succession when they roll up to their Hamptons house and there's like a whole staff like working there. They're all in uniform and you're like, did I pull up to a hotel? No, this is someone's house. This is crazy. Agency had given me some backstory on this client and I had done some Googling as well. But basically what I surmised before arriving was that there was a billionaire who had a wife that he had kids with, that he divorced and then remarried like 5 times. And I think he died. And now I'm not sure if it was that in the will he gave the house to everyone or if he didn't have a will and now all of the wives have to share the property. But it was apparently big in the news about like his death and like all the wives and the distribution of assets. Apparently it was tea at the time. So the client I'm working for is wife number 1 who has this guy's children. And she's kind of like the head wife of all of the wives. And as I'm starting to prep for the lunch, I am bonding with the staff, obviously, and they inform me that another one of the wives is going to be arriving soon and will also be staying in the house, but in a different wing. To paint a picture, there's like a main house, and then there are multiple wings that kind of shoot out of the main part of the house, and each wing has multiple bedrooms, multiple dining rooms, multiple living rooms, and when more than one wife decides to stay at the house on the same weekend, which is less than ideal and causes a lot of arguments apparently, what happens is they stay in different wings and they don't speak to each other, and they kind of just exist as if they're staying in separate houses and the other one doesn't exist. And then the members of the house staff kind of like coordinate things between them so that they don't cross paths. So I was cooking for this big luncheon for wife number 1, but wife number 3 or 4 was also home and also needed lunch. So I had to make sure to like make her a plate and like have the staff like bring it to her. It was crazy. So I catered the lunch. All the food came out amazing. This was my first time doing a gig where there was house staff that was helping me. So typically I do the cleaning, I do the cooking, I do the serving, I do the cleanup, everything. But in this case, there was about 10 women who were dedicated to those kinds of tasks. So whether it be helping me clean the kitchen or helping me chop vegetables or helping me serve and plate the food and like they were the ones who were running the food from the kitchen to the room where they were having the lunch. So that was really nice. I genuinely would not have been able to do this job had that not been the case. But they were all super helpful. They were giving me so many compliments, girl power. The reason why I had gotten this gig is because there was a chef who typically lives and stays in this house and cooks for anyone who was staying for the weekend. And he apparently quit his job, and they were in the process of finding a new person. And so they were like, it's so impressive because like this like 50-year-old man who's been a chef for decades couldn't handle the pressure and left. And then you roll up and do it. And it was really impressive. And I was like, oh my God, thank you. Now I will say wife number 1 was extremely nice to me. Very complimentary, very girl power. I think she tried to set me up with her son at the end, which was funny because we were like the same age, but I was like, and it was an overall good experience. And then she was like, oh my God, wait, can you sleep over? Like, I just found out there was like a movie premiere going on in the Hamptons, and she had some friends in town and she wanted to invite them back over for dinner after the movie premiere. And so at this point it's like 3:00. I'm so exhausted. I'd been up like well into like 1 a.m., 2 a.m. for the past 3 nights, and I'm someone who needs a lot of sleep. And she looks at me and she goes, can you stay over and cook dinner tonight, breakfast tomorrow, and lunch tomorrow? And I was like, yeah, sure. Thank God I packed an overnight bag. So she wraps up lunch with the ladies. She, does her glam, goes to this movie premiere. I take my Jeep over to Cinderella, get some more groceries, and I cook her and her friends dinner. And this is the funny part when the 2 wives come into play. So wife number 3 or 4 was also staying for dinner, but obviously they weren't dining in the same dining room or at the same time. And apparently these hallways were so long that the staff who was running the food for me was like, make the soup. I was doing vegetable soup because she requested vegetable soup. She was like, make the soup boiling hot and preheat the bowls in the oven because we have to go so long down the hallway, but by the time we get to the end of the hallway to give them their soup, it's going to be cold and they don't like cold soup. So I was like, fuck, okay. So I had to like boil the soup and ladle it into bowls boiling hot, and they had to like put it on the trays boiling hot and like run down the hallway so that the food would get to the dining room before it got cold. And since there were the 2 wives things, we had like 2 different dinner services because it was like wife number 1 sits down, we're running food. Oh, wife number 3 arrived. We have to start over and like run food to her. It was so special. Dinner goes great. She comes back to the kitchen. She's very complimentary. She thanks me for being able to stay and do this very last minute. And she brings me to my bedroom in the staff wing. And it's this teensy tiny little bedroom with a teensy tiny twin bed. And she's like, oh my God, is this okay? I feel so bad. And I was like, oh no, like it's fine, whatever. So I set my bag down. I get tucked in my twin bed and I just sleep in this stranger's house. And like in the staff wing with all my girls. It was crazy. And then I wake up in the morning for breakfast, drive over to Cinderella, get the groceries, make breakfast. And then, did I do lunch? I think I also did lunch. And that's when she introduced me to her son. And I was like, and then I left and slept for 3 days. Now, I vlogged that entire weekend, and what's hilarious to me is, like, I recorded the vlog. This was before I posted vlogs on TikTok at all. I recorded the vlog, I edited it, and then I was like, I can't post this. This is so stupid. Who gives a fuck about my weekend? Who cares? And so I didn't post that vlog until February 2021, and then it went viral, and that was, like, how I got my start on TikTok, which is just hilarious to me because I was sitting on that footage for months. And it was such a juicy weekend. I don't know why. So yeah, post that video, change your life, and then you can become the billionaire. I'm just kidding. So that's why when people say, do you miss working as a private chef? I think of those weekends and I say no.
Am I the bitch for getting mad at a family member for saying these things to me during my pregnancy? Because to be completely honest, I don't think I'm in the wrong here. As we know, I'm 30 weeks pregnant today, and I'm so close to popping, and I cannot believe how quickly this has gone. Getting back into the story, this one family member always has something to say to me every time I see her. It started off first with her saying things like, oh, I can't believe, you're having a baby and you're not married. That didn't offend me. That was really easy to respond to. I just said it's 2024. Not everybody gets married nowadays. But then she started coming for my baby before he was even born. Started asking for photos of ultrasounds. I, of course, was showing everyone else in my family, so I didn't mind showing her because I wasn't expecting this reply. In this particular ultrasound, he was only 19 weeks, right? And the nurse that was doing the ultrasound told me that she couldn't get a perfect reading of him. So the photos might be a little bit blurry. I don't care. I want to see my baby. I just want to make sure he's all healthy and I want a little digital photo of him. So I tell her to proceed. The nurse gives us the photos back and then I start going around showing everyone in my family who wants to see the baby. She goes, oh my God, why is his nose that big? He's 19 weeks old, girl. Calm down. I proceed to tell her, well, the photos were stretched out and blurred because she couldn't get like an accurate photo of him. So we just took what we could get. And then she had the nerve to go, well, it's fine. Plastic surgery is a thing. You can get that fixed when he's 16. Sorry. I promise you it did not even look that big. I learned very quickly that day not to show her another ultrasound ever again. And time goes by. I see her over Christmas. I see her over New Year's. And she starts giving me the rundown of what to expect. I said one day in front of her, and I wish I did not, but I was like, oh my God, I'm really tired today. Literally like that. No complaining at all. She's like, oh, you just wait until the baby comes. Keep in mind, this is the same woman who has said to me, are you sure there's only one in there and you're not having fucking triplets? Triplets? Bitch, be for real. I did one of those prenatal classes and she just happened to be at my nan's house when I went to my nan's house after the class. And I said, I learned how to change a nappy today. I learned how to swaddle the baby today. She questioned me like I was lying about it and was like, oh, well, how did they show me? What did they teach you? I proceed to show her the techniques that I was taught throughout this class. Again, I wish I didn't. It tells me that I'm doing it wrong, that the person who taught me had no idea what they were talking about, even though they've been a midwife for fucking 35 years. She also asked me if I'm going to breastfeed or if I'm going to formula. I said I'm going to try and breastfeed, but if I can't do it, babe, I have no problem with formula. And she proceeded to try and make me feel bad and said that I should absolutely not formula my baby. I didn't fall for it, babe. The final thing that she said that has really pushed me over the edge, said, so are you going to get an epidural? And I said, well, if it happens, it happens. She said, well, if you do, that's the easy way out and I just wouldn't recommend it. What, babe? It's giving birth. There's no fucking easy way out. If you can do it without the epidural, preps to you. If you can't, oh well, who cares? After that, honestly, I just said to her, I looked her dead in the eye and I said, please stop giving me your opinions on my pregnancy. I'm running my own race. I never gave you any opinions when you were pregnant. If you disagree with me again and you keep saying all these mean things to try and scare me, I'm literally not going to talk to you until it's over. I'm gonna finish the rest of my makeup. Okay, makeup's done. Let me
of how Jake and I met and started dating. Technically, Jake and I met when we were in 6th grade. We went to the same middle school together. We were actually placed in the same class, but our class size was too big and I was transferred out. We didn't really talk or run in the same social circles until I would say about sophomore year to junior year of high school. A lot of stuff was going on in my life that kind of made me the way that I was, and that's a story for another time because I don't want to cry today. I was partying a lot, drinking a lot, dating a lot, and he was just came from a more stable home, had a a more strict upbringing for the better. Beginning of junior year, a couple of our friends were dating, and I thought he was really, really hot. He was like a tall, blonde dude that played on the football team. Of course, I thought he was hot. I was also a cheerleader that year, and for Halloween every year, the cheerleaders would wear the football players' jerseys. I really wanted to wear his jersey, but a girlfriend of mine was like, no, I called it first. And so I was really sad. New eyeshadow palette. Let's see if I like this color. I'm just like winging it with the new colors here. Oh, I kind of like it just for like an all over every day. This is Wanderer by Tarte. Tartlet palette. That New Year's Eve, we were at the same New Year's Eve party and I was really drunk. I went up to him. I tried to introduce myself. I said, hi. And he goes, hey, and then walked away. And I was crushed. One of our mutual friends that were dating actually sat next to him in, I think it was biology class, and asked him, hey, would you ever be interested in dating Samantha Minor? That was my last name. And he was like, yeah. So that night he slid into my DMs, and by that I mean he sent me a MySpace message and asked for my number. We started talking and texting every single night, and there was a big dance in February, Sweethearts dance, and I had heard that he was going to ask me, and I was so thrilled. I remember running into the bathroom to talk to my girlfriends because I was so nervous about it, and as soon as I come out of the bathroom, he was standing right there with 3 roses and asked me to the dance in front of the girls' bathroom. Of course I said yes though. This was also when things were getting really bad in my house. My parents were fighting. I ran out of the house. I ran to 7-Eleven before I went over to a girlfriend's house to grab a Slurpee and some hot fries, which was like my go-to snack back then. I was just like really upset and wasn't paying attention. So apparently Jake was also at the 7-Eleven and tried to say hi to me, and I didn't even see him, and I just kept driving. We were both in our cars. And later he texted me like, ouch, burn. And I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, I saw you at the 7-Eleven. It's like, oh, sorry. I was having a rough day. We went to the dance. It was so much fun. I had the best time with him. He was such a gentleman. Every time we went on a date, like before and after that, he would always come to the door. He would always drive me wherever we were going for dinner, would pay for dinner. He was very, very like gentlemanly for a 16-year-old. I want our boys to be like that one day though. Chivalrous. Chivalrous, that's the word. I just realized I have to leave in 5 minutes for a dentist appointment, so we're gonna whip through this. One night we're talking on the phone and he goes, I have something important to ask you tomorrow. I was like, oh, I wonder what that is. Show up to school the next day, and every single class or like passing period, he would come up to me with a note card with like a little rhyme on it and a rose. I would have to like fill in the blanks of what the missing word was. It was really funny just because everybody kind of like knew what was going on. At lunch, there's actually this like big lawn that everybody used to sit on to eat their food. It was like bigger than a football field. It was huge. I definitely put that way too far up on my face. I just watched him walk across the entire lawn to give me like my 4th card of the day. At the end of the school day, the cards all spelled out, will you go out with me? And of course I said yes. He really became my support system and my best friend, to the point where like it was so bad at my house that I moved into his parents' house senior year of high school. I've really got to go fast because I've got to leave right now. We also applied to all of the same colleges and decided that we were going to go to San Diego State together. I remember there was like this one poster where everybody would put what school they were going to, and the guidance counselor said to Jake, do you really think you guys are going to be together when we come back for this 10-year reunion and both of your names are at this college on this poster? And Jake was like, yeah, I do. I can't remember exactly what the guidance counselor's response was, but it wasn't very nice. But if there's anything I know, it's that the person who's always had the most faith in our relationship is Jake. Like, I have always had a lot of faith and trust in our relationship, but that man was there for me before I even knew it and was dedicated and committed. His youth pastor also took him out to lunch one day and told him to stop dating me because I was not a Christian yet. But he didn't listen because he loved me and he had faith in us, which is rare at 16. We both went to San Diego State. He studied finance, I studied marketing. We graduated spring of 2012 and then got married literally 2 weeks later. And that is the story of how Jake and I started dating, and then eventually went to college together, got married, yada, yada, yada.
My boyfriend wants to leave me because I wasn't happy enough about the baby that he didn't want to have. I recently found out I was pregnant. It wasn't planned. I'm only 18 and I was terrified. I'm not ready to be a mom. I really would love to be in the future, but not now. I told my boyfriend and he was in favor of getting an abortion. He said he wasn't ready. I agreed with him but was so scared. I wanted to talk about all of our options, but anytime I would mention adoption or keeping it, he didn't want to hear it. He even said if I kept him, he would try to be in the child's life, but he could not be with me because he would never look at me the same if I decided to inconvenience him by keeping it. He later took that back. This has been the most traumatic experience of my life. I went to the doctor and they took my HCG level and they said it wasn't high enough and it looked like the pregnancy wasn't viable and the baby wasn't healthy. This crushed me. Because even though I didn't think I could be a mom just yet, the fact that my baby wasn't healthy and probably wasn't going to make it hurt me. I cried and cried to my boyfriend. He He's not the best with comforting me. He usually just sits in silence until he figures out something to say. I understand that he's doing his best. I was crying to him because I was afraid I wouldn't be able to have children later in life. I asked him, "Do you think I'll ever be able to have babies later?" He said, "I hope so." Then he started talking about the movie Up and how the couple in the movie can't have children. He said, "I wonder if that will be us." That made me feel worse. I just wanted some comfort in that moment. Not that. I said I have to call you back. The next day he texted me saying he wants a paternity test. He was mad I hung up, I guess. He then called me and went off on me. I don't even remember everything he said, but it was bad. He told me that baby wasn't the mistake, that I was. He said, "F you and the baby." He said that I have nothing good to say about the baby, which isn't true. He told me I'm a horrible person and that he doesn't want to be with me. He said that he would never want me to be the mother of his child. He said he didn't care because the baby is going to die anyway, so f it. It was horrible. Later he called and briefly said sorry, but then just started demanding I tell him when I was going to abort it. Even though I already told him I don't know if the baby is going to survive, I might miscarry. Today I got my HGC levels back again and it went down. It looks like my baby is going to die soon. He then told me that he doesn't want to be with me because I was not happy enough about the baby and other girls would be grateful to have his baby. He said I did nothing to comfort him and he feels alone with me. He doesn't want to be with me. I'm so traumatized after this whole situation. How do I handle this? This is why it's so important to be very, very picky about who you choose to procreate with.
Am I the astronaut for not sacrificing one of my children's activities over the other? I am a single dad of 2 girls, Gigi 14 and Penelope 8. Their mother left when the girls were younger. I don't have a huge support system outside of the girls' afternoon nanny, whom I'm very grateful for. Gigi has played soccer since she was 6. She's raised through the ranks of the local league. She does regular soccer in the spring and fall, then indoors in the winter. Penelope plays hockey. Saturdays can be a little hectic with both of these, but it's worth it given how passionate they both are for these. I always make sure that they have someone at a game and split which ones I go to down the middle. Recently, Gigi's coach approached me about a travel league. It would require me to go out of town with Gigi multiple weekends. I don't have anyone else who could go with her and be a chaperone. We have no family or close friends that could take her. I wouldn't know anyone on the new team right away that would be willing to take her, nor that I would trust right away. Then in terms of Penelope, I'd either have to hire someone to watch her those weekends, which on top of those new lessons and travel would be financially impossible, or Penelope would have to drop out of hockey to come with us. Gigi feels that since she plans on playing soccer through college, while Penelope isn't sure if she'll stick with hockey long term, she should give it up. But Penelope wants to stick with hockey for now. I told Gigi I was sorry, but she'll have to table travel soccer for now, and it may not ever happen. I added if one of her current teammates joined the travel league and if I knew their parent well enough and the parent was willing, I'd definitely consider it. But as of now, her other teammates aren't joining the travel team. Gigi's coach and a few of her friends' parents feel that this is a sacrifice I should make. Gigi is also pissed with me. But I feel it's not fair for hers to take place over Penelope. I wouldn't let Penelope's activity come before Gigi's either, and I've said that. Am I the astronaut?
My ex-wife keeps asking me to be part of her kid's life but won't compensate me for my contributions. How can I get her to stop? She's 29 and I'm 32. My ex-wife and I split last June. The court battle was messy and she ended up taking full custody of our 2 kids. The whole ordeal was getting very drawn out and ridiculous, so I ended up giving her what she wanted. A couple months later, she's blowing up my phone demanding that I still continue to be part of her kids' lives. I told her that since she wanted full custody, she can deal with raising them herself. But the fact that she keeps trying to manipulate me to pull her weight when she legally has full custody feels like a slap in the face. After numerous texts, calls, and even emails, I blocked her on everything. She ended up driving an hour plus to my mother's house to beg her to get me to spend time with the kids, saying stuff like since the kids are young, they need the influence of both parents in their lives. If only she thought about that before getting full custody. She keeps saying that I won't have to contribute financially, which isn't the problem because we both have well-paying jobs, but that she wants me to take them out to eat or something or visit. Like that would even make a difference. It's still work to drive all the way out there to mess around with stuff that isn't even my responsibility anymore. I told her over a phone call that if she wants me to expend that much effort and time when I'm already busy, then she needs to compensate me financially. Like I said, the money isn't the issue here. I just feel like if I'm going to have to play the role of father when I don't even have partial custody, then I shouldn't be doing it for free. It's not my job anymore. That much she's made clear. I'm getting so tired of all the mess and the constant harassment via phone call and text. I just want her to leave me alone. I think she's seriously having trouble living with her decisions. How can I resolve the situation? Legally, it should be resolved, but how can I stop her from trying to manipulate me?
Am I the asshole for digging in my heels about sex in the prenup? I honestly can't believe I'm asking this, but my boyfriend has gotten so mad that I'm feeling a little crazy right now. Both 34, he had a terrible marriage before me that ended up in a dead bedroom, and he's determined to never go back to that life again. Understood. I think that sucked for him to experience. So now he wants a prenup, and literally written in the prenup that we will have sex X amount of times a week, or else I get absolutely nothing in the divorce. I'd already agreed to a 50-50 prenup of marital assets. We keep what we came into the marriage with. Now, that's not enough for him. He wants me to prove that I won't stop having sex with him in the future. I tell him that I can't prove the future, and putting something in writing doesn't prove that. Now he says I must have a guilty conscience if I won't sign these terms. Because if I'm so certain it won't happen, then what's the problem? But to me, it makes me feel like a sex slave and not a loved wife or partner.